Mother tongue is vital in framing the thinking and emotions of people. And while some languages have overshadowed the mother language because of their widespread use, of course, attempts to preserve the home language continue. The world celebrates International Mother Language Day next Tuesday on the 21st of February. In South Africa, languages are a touchy subject as their prominence or disappearance is often linked to the apartheid regime. One man is on a quest to raise awareness and hopefully revive Sindebele. Now, this is a language that he says is different from the recognized isiNdebele. Lucas Ledwaba, the editor of Mukurukuru Media that focuses on culture and language, joins us now from Polokwane to discuss this. A very good afternoon to you, Lucas, and thank you so much for your time. An important discussion, and I'm hoping one that, goes beyond just Mother Language Day, and that especially as a country like South Africa that embraces more than 10 different languages, that this can be, something that brings fresh and new information to people that may not have known about it. So there is isiNdebele, that we know very well about. We know it's a recognized South African language among the 12 languages, the official ones that at least we have. But then there is also Sindebele. Talk to us about the difference.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. I think maybe to go back a little bit, the issue of how apartheid put people into boxes created a situation where a lot of people lost their identity, and as a result, they also lost their languages. So Sindebele is usually referred to as Sumaela Sindebele or Northern Ndebele, and it falls under the Tegela group of languages, which include Siswati, Silala, Siphuthi, Sihlubi. So there was a study conducted by the late Dr. Butis Kosana, the University of Pretoria's Department of Linguistics, where he makes the point that although isiNdebele and Sindebele share a lot of, the Ndebele and isiNdebele people share a lot of cultural and historical attributes. However, their languages are completely different. They have very little in common. So Sindebele is a language spoken by more than 2 million people in Limpopo, parts of Mpumalanga, parts of Northwest, and parts of Gauteng. However, this language is not recognized as one of the official languages under the Constitution. And how did that happen? Under apartheid, isiNdebele was given a priority, and it was given the support to grow as a language, and it was eventually taught in schools. However, the Amandebele Asenyagato, who speak Sindebele, have preserved the language for the past 400 years, 500 years that it has been spoken. They've preserved the language without it being recognized by government. So now there are efforts here and there by different groups of people to get the language recognized as one of the official languages in the country.
Now, you're saying that there are efforts, but are those efforts successful? Is there unity in the Sindebele community to ensure that government recognizes? Because we are, at one point, when I was growing up, we only had 11 official languages. And then, of course, sign language was recognized as well. So this is not to say that a language can never be recognized if, of course, a strong enough effort is made to have its recognition. I want to ask, it's a two-pronged question that I'm going to ask you. Are the efforts strong enough? Is there unity in making sure that the efforts are strong enough that the government recognizes? And secondly, why is it so important to you as Lucas Ledwaba and the Sindebele community that it is recognized?
Well, whether the efforts are strong enough, I'm not sure. In my work as a journalist, I have gone out to do research and interview people and document the efforts of different people who are trying to get the language recognized. So far, people have started writing the language. It is spoken in some of the community radio stations in Limpopo, especially in the Waterberg and Capricorn district areas. There are different organizations, Mandebele National Organization, they are working towards that. You'll understand that for a long time, people were marginalized. They did not have the knowledge as to how to go about, for instance, petitioning government, for instance, mobilizing people. You require resources to reach out to people who are scattered in different parts of the country to come up with a very strong effort to say, well, we are now united, we are strong, and we are going ahead. We have done 1, 2, 3. But I know that in Limpopo, there have been efforts by communities to say to government, recognize us as one of the languages that are spoken in this province. And I must say, government has already started, although this is not official, they are making efforts. When you have provincial ceremonies, they do acknowledge the Sindebele as one of the languages that are spoken in the province.
I just want to just ask that question again about the importance. Why is it so important? I mean, I know you've mentioned that it is spoken by 2 million people in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga. It could be spoken by a whole lot more people in other parts of South Africa that we just don't know about. So why is it so important that Sindebele is recognized, officially, that is?
Okay, it's not only about Sindebele. The United Nations Education and Scientific Council has declared the decade 2022 to 2032 as the National Decade of Indigenous Languages. And why did they do that? They are saying that 40% of languages that are spoken today are under threat, they are endangered. So that means they might disappear if efforts are not made to ensure that those languages are supported and continue to grow and continue to be spoken. I want to quote here the director of the Director General of UNESCO, and she says about language, and I quote, "Language is what makes us human. When people's freedom to use language is not guaranteed, this limits their freedom of thought, of opinion and expression, as well as their access to rights and public services." So why should we not make an effort to promote those languages that were marginalized under apartheid? Apartheid put people into boxes and said, you are Zulu, you are Xhosa. But there are so many different groups who spoke different languages that are not either Xhosa or Zulu. And as they say, if you lose your language, you lose your humanity, you lose your identity, you lose your culture. So it is important that Sindebele and other languages that are not recognized by government are given that support so that people regain that dignity that was taken away from them by the colonial and apartheid regimes.
Is it possible, Lucas? Is it possible that, you know, when you look at South Africa and you look at the world in general, and it's actually very interesting that the UN is putting up the next decade, you know, on the focus of indigenous languages and heightening and essentially putting them on a higher platform, allowing them to ensure that they do not go extinct. It's a very important effort and initiative that they're doing. But is it possible, though? Is there a willingness from all of those who are in positions of power to ensure that languages don't go extinct? You know, because there is always a conversation, especially when we talk at school level, that why are children who are not essentially strong in the English language, why are they not being taught in their mother tongue? Because then we would perhaps see better school results if you were teaching a child who's grown up in Sindebele, only knows Sindebele, being taught in Sindebele. You know, why is that not the case? So do you feel that there is a willingness and that it is possible to ensure that the preservation of indigenous languages continues and happens and that we do not lose, for example, Sindebele?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I think it is possible. Sindebele has been spoken, I don't know, for more than 500 years. It has never been recognized by any government in South Africa, but it is still being spoken today. So, number one, that means it takes people themselves to preserve their own language. The acknowledgement and recognition of a particular language by a government ensures that that language continues to grow. People are given an opportunity to express themselves. For instance, when you go to court, you are asked to, express yourself in Sepedi, but you are not a Sepedi speaker. You speak 100%. 100% of the time, you speak Sindebele at home. So that might lead to a denial of justice in some cases. So the recognition of languages by institutions of state is very, very critical.
Just before I let you go, I want to just look at the matter of willingness. I mean, I know you've touched on the possibilities, that it is actually very possible. Now, it being possible requires willingness. Do you feel that there is enough willingness in the current administration of South Africa, given what you may have seen in previous administrations where indigenous languages are concerned? We can't even speak about apartheid because you have already mentioned that intentionally they put different languages in boxes. They essentially said, if you Zulu, Xhosa, Siswati, you are all the same thing. Liamo, Mosotho, Mopedi, Motswana, you're all the same thing. You all fall under Sesotho. Do you feel that the current administration has the willingness to firstly embrace, recognize, and then essentially promote Sindebele?
The willingness of government, I believe, rests a lot on the efforts that are made by people like Mandebela Senyagato, for them to say to government, we are serious about this, this is what we are doing. For instance, Amathubi have made efforts. They have now the isiHlubi Language Board, which is working very hard to ensure that the language is written again, it's taught in schools, and they're also making efforts to force government, the petitioning government, the writing to government to say, we want our language to be recognized. So once communities take those steps, they then say to government, we have done our bit, you also do your bit. At the moment, I can't say there is no willingness there's no unwillingness to recognize Sindebele, because I don't think the efforts that have been made have put enough pressure, have convinced those who are, lawmakers to say, yes, these people are serious, they've done 1, 2, 3.
Lucas, we'll leave it there with you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Today this afternoon. That is the editor of Mukurukuru Media, of course, talking to us live from Polokwane. His name, Lucas Ledwaba.